Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight to be part of this important conversation, a conversation focused on our primary school facilities. My name is Tim Weber, and I am the superintendent of Wyoming City Schools. And again, just want to welcome you here tonight. We are truly excited to be here and to be focused on this plan as we share the details of the full primary facilities master plan with you today. The process actually started back in 2021 with a Citizens Advisory Committee study that was related to the future of our primary schools. This study was followed by 2 additional years of planning and engagement with our staff and truly with the entire Wyoming community as we discussed options that address the needs of our facilities, and again, our primary facilities in particular. The primary facilities master plan was recently approved by the Board of Education, and that just happened this past summer. And all of that work over the past 3 years brings us here today as we share a plan that supports our students in so many ways. Just to name a few, this master plan includes secure entry points, updated safety features, improved accessibility, improved and expanded classrooms with spaces for gifted education, special education, intervention, art, and music, collaboration spaces, adequate gym space, expanded kitchens and student dining areas, improved learning environments, improved infrastructure and systems, increased flexibility of spaces within our buildings, and improved access to and from our schools with expanded parking. I told you we might hit that button. I saw that change. I apologize for that. So with all that said, we are truly excited about all of these possibilities and the impact that they have on our student experience. And that's really what it's about, how these improvements can impact our students in positive ways. So thank you to our staff, thank you to our primary facilities steering committee, which has been involved in so many different ways, and really thank you to the entire Wyoming community for the incredible engagement that we've had over the past 3 years that has helped to inform the master plan that you're going to see tonight. So for our process tonight, first of all, we will have architect Mike Richley up here, and he will provide an update on the primary facilities master plan. And then we'll have Treasurer Rhonda Johnson speak with us about the financial information regarding the primary facilities bond issue. And then as we finish, we will do as we've done in previous community forums. We'll ask all of our primary facilities steering committee members to come down to the front of the room, and we invite any of you to speak with those committee members, to ask them any questions that you have, or share any information that you would like to share with the members of our team. So again, just want to say thank you for your participation tonight. That's a critical part of this process. And right now, I would like to invite Mike Richley of Richley Architects up to share our master plan.
Thank you all. My name is Mike, and it's great to be back with you again. I don't know how long all of you have been on this journey, but we had community forum. We had first started with the listening session last summer. We had our first community forum last fall. We had our second community forum in early spring this year, and our third community forum late spring. And this is the 4th one. So thank you for all those who've been on this journey. It has been both fun and exciting to see how things has developed as we've gone through. My hope tonight is that everyone leaves with clarity around what the plan is, how we're planning to pull it off, and how much it's going to cost. That's my goal. So I'll be doing reviews of some of the content that you may have seen in the first, second, and third community forums at a pretty quick and high level. I would invite you, if there's portions of those you want to learn more about, that you go to the district's website and watch those videos online. And then there's about 25% of the presentation will be new information and show you conceptual planning diagrams of what the new schools could look like. So that will be new today. And with that, let's get started. So your existing plan is you have 5 schools. You have high school where we're at tonight. The middle school serves grades 5 to 8. And then you have 3 K-4 schools. You have Vermont to the north, 204 students, to the south, 193, and Hilltop to the west at 277. I'm going to just show briefly a high-level review of some of the space needs at each of the schools. At Vermont, this is a school that lacks a secure vestibule here. It's a small administrative space, classrooms that are undersized, a lack of space for special ed, gifted intervention. There's not a dedicated art or music room. There's no stage off the student dining room. The student dining room and gym are too small, and the kitchens that serve it are also way too small. And then also kind of a general storage issue throughout. We did a program determining what kind of space they would need to meet the needs at Vermont. And that study showed that we needed, for a capacity of 200 students, we needed a building that was 35,150 square feet. Your current building is 20,708. So this just shows you conceptually what kind of addition we would have needed to put on. We would not recommending putting on addition there on the west per se. But you need an addition that's about 14,400 square feet to right size that building to get it up to the needs, space needs that the district has. So that building is about 70% too small today. Over at Elm, similarly, there is a lack of secure vestibule. There's administrative spaces that's small and remote. Classroom spaces are generally too small. Lack of special ed gifted intervention, no art, music, no stage. Small student dining room, gym, kitchen. Here is also quite small and lack of storage. At Vermont, we did a program saying how much space would Elm need to meet the educational needs. That one required about 12,800 square foot addition. And Elm in this case is about 57% too small. Hilltop is unique among the three because you have individual separate buildings. So this brings up a kind of a new and unique concern here about the lack of a secure perimeter. It's a completely open campus. So that's an added issue at Hilltop in addition to secure vestibule, administrative sizes, classroom sizes, special ed, art, music, etc. Hilltop, we need about a 20,000 square foot addition to right size that, and that building is about 65% too small. I'm going to show you a quick summary of slides. I will point you back to one of the previous community forums where Regina did a great job kind of talking about a day in life and how these issues I'm going to show you affect the kids and the teachers. So here's Hilltop. You can see its exterior buildings linked together with breezeways. There are accessibility issues relative to each of these buildings being on different levels. And a lack of secure vestibule here as well. This is the entrance to the office where you come in through non-accessible steps and up into the office area. This is secure vestibule at Elm. Again, you come in for the vestibule and the office is actually remote. So by the time you're greeted by a person, that's kind of their vantage point. You're in the building. Administrative spaces throughout are too small. This is an example of the media center at Elm, where some of the bookcases were rejiggered here to create a special ed space behind it. Again, nobody's doing anything wrong here, but it's just evidence as we see you walk around the buildings of lack of small spaces to support student learning. You see that further by students out in desks and chairs in the hallway. Special ed spaces are too small relative to the number of students they serve. And art is on a cart. Art storage there out in the hallway, and music also is on the cart with music equipment in the hallway. And classroom sizes are too small for what our goals are for this project. Kitchens are also too small. This is the serving area of Vermont. And then there's the serving area at Elm. So it's just in the clinic. This is a wide angle lens. It's actually a very, very small space. So those are just some visuals to give you an idea of what some of the issues we're trying to solve. We came to you last fall, 2003, with 8 options. A whole variety of options, new construction, renovation, a mix of both. We looked at combination schools, where instead of all K4s, we're doing multiple grades, say grades 3 and 4 in a single building, where they all go to the same school. So those were explored in the fall. We had traffic analysis work done, geotechnical analysis work done, got our hands around budget parameters, established a steering committee, engaged with the board, and came to the community with community forum number 1 to present those 8 options. With all that feedback, we did work over the winter, and we came back in early spring of 2024 and narrowed all those 8 down to 2. Those 2 at the time were like-for-like K4 replacements, and the other option was 2 K2s, a K2 at Elm, and a K2 at Vermont, and a combination 3-4 at Hilltop. Those were the 2 options on the table in early spring. Engaged with the steering committee, engaged with the board, engaged with the community forum, number 2, and we went out with a statistically valid survey to test those 2 to make sure what we were hearing was correct. This was the voter feedback from that survey. This was the option where there were 2 K2s, 1 K2 at Elm, 1 K2 at Vermont, and a combination grades 3 and 4 building at Hilltop. The results of this show just 35% of those polled thought that plan was a good idea. Second option was all new K4s, so a new K4 at each site. This was surveyed, and 60% of those respondents said this was a good idea. And with that information, going back to the steering committee, going back to the board, and coming back to this community with community forum number 3 in late spring, the consensus of this process was to go with the plan of the new K4s. And that was ultimately approved by the board in June, and the move is to go on the ballot here November 5th. And now for what is that master plan? So you see the 3 new K4s, 200 students each at Elm, Vermont, and 350 at Hilltop. So next up, I want to show you some conceptual planning diagrams of what those schools could be like. And I first want to kind of caveat this by saying the role of our firm on this is to advance the ball far enough that the community has a good sense of size, shape, and orientation, how the building might sit on the site. But surely we're not designing the buildings yet. That would happen after the bond issue passes. So what you're seeing tonight isn't necessarily what the final product is going to be, but it's one possibility that has been looked at, tested, vetted, and input has been provided. So again, I'm going to show you a concept. So if I were in your shoes and I said, wait a minute, how do you come back on the site with a building that's 70% bigger when the site's too small, right? That's a fair question. So the intent of tonight is to answer that, how these sites could work supporting larger schools. First up is Vermont. This is the current Vermont footprint off of Vermont Avenue. The gray box with the white surround is your current 1-story, 20,708 square feet. Our proposal is to turn that into a 2-story building that's 35,150 square feet. It would similarly face Vermont, just like it is today. Have an entry perhaps in the center to a new secure vestibule, parent drop-off and pickup, a new larger parking lot on the west side. And if you flip back, you'll notice forward. This is a playfield, and there is some parking here. But our intention is to increase the amount of on-site parking, which should help the congestion. So as part of that, we could do service off the back, teacher entry. This would be the primary student entry. And then what we're proposing, if you compare the old footprint in orange to the proposal is that the building would shift to the west. And as we shift it to the west, we start to open up additional space for playground and green space. However, we do want to be a good neighbor, so as you can see how these potential building outlines compare, we're looking for ways to get off of property lines, not extend out further into Vermont, etc. So a little bit more on the site. We can envision students coming in on this side in the morning if we have bike parking, but this could be secured through the fence, and all this could be a playground area. Up next is a conceptual bubble diagram. We looked at all the spaces that you would need in your school. Again, this isn't necessarily exactly how it's going to lay out, but it is an idea. And this is conceptual, but all the bubbles are to scale, relative and proportionate to one another. So, for example, this bar, which says admin, is all your administrative spaces. So think of your secretary, reception, principal's office, vault, record storage, faculty restroom, teaching workroom, all of that, when added up, is in this location. So we put admin up front, kind of in the catbird seat. They can see folks as they're coming in and leaving just by nature of where they're positioned in the building. A new secure vestibule here. And then the green bubble is a larger combination gym student dining room. And we add a stage to that, and a new larger kitchen with service via mechanical to the west. As we move to the east, we have a special ed MH room, and these will be online. There's a key I'll point you to in the bottom left. Some of these keys these acronyms that you might not exactly pick up intuitively, but SEMH is essentially special ed or multi-handicap. And we want to put them from an ADA standpoint at grade, at ground level, easy to get in and out. We had a dedicated music room for the first time, and conceptually that might even link up to the back of the stage. So if you have a performance and you have some pre-function, some of that can happen right in the elementary music room, pop up on stage, and have a performance. A dedicated art room for the first time on the corner, and then a pair of kindergarten rooms with their own individual restroom. Large restrooms for the students in the middle, 3 stairs, and an elevator right in the middle. So the students could have lunch in the restrooms and go straight out to the playground and back in. Up on the second floor, you have these are 2-story boxes. So imagine that the gymnasium at this point is not below you. So there might be some windows looking down into that, as well as the stages below you. But we have a pair of 4th grade classrooms with some small group space, a new library overlooking Vermont, 2 3rd grade rooms, 2 2nd grade rooms, 2 1st grade rooms. And again, a variety of small spaces for small group, for special ed distributed. Next up is Elm. Elm is a 1-story building, 22,364 square feet. And similarly, we're proposing a 2-story building, just about the same footprint as it sits today. 2 stories, 35,150 square feet. Potentially the drop off or that drive aisle could stay. We could add a new sidewalk, provide a new secure vestibule, provide some parking and service, and then through fencing, leave the playground essentially where it is, making some improvements. Next up, you can see the dashed orange line showing the footprint of Elm today. So look for opportunities to pull back just a bit from the neighbor on this side, pull back just a bit from the street on the front, and this line and that line stays about where they are today. First floor would have an entry with a secure vestibule, the administrative space. Back up here we have service into a kitchen, into a cafeteria gymnasium with a stage. We have our MH multi-handicap room, 2 kindergarten classrooms with restrooms each in a small group, and a pair of first grade classrooms. Large group restroom, small group, and music also adjacent to stage. So students could have lunch, hit the restroom, and come out to the playground, and back again. In this case, we have a pair of stairs here, one here, and an elevator up front. As we go up to the second floor, a new library overlooking Elm, a pair of 4th grade rooms with small group, a pair of 3rd grade rooms with small group, and a pair of 2nd grade rooms with small group. In this case, art comes up to the 2nd floor with windows on 2 sides. And again, just like Vermont, the cafeteria would be a 2-story space that's looking down into below, as well as the stage would be a 2-story space. Next up, the hard one, Hilltop. So this is the current footprint of Hilltop, 4 separate buildings, 30,880 square feet. Flip the other 2 into grade for this one. So the one initial idea is a 2-story building that you enter at grade and it drops down, kind of like a walkout basement. There's significant slope on that site, and we feel like we can step it down and get windows to both floors. So when I show you this first floor plan, there's nothing up, only step down. One of the proposals is to swing the building a bit to the east, maybe even like a bit of a boomerang shape, and insert a new through drive connecting Riley to Oliver. One of the challenges on the site from a circulation standpoint is there is no link between the 2. So you get down to this parking lot and you're kind of trapped. So I think this could be a huge circulation improvement, both for the school and the neighborhood. So new through drive, parking off the side, service, and playground. Entry up front, and some additional entries. Keep in mind this building is a bit bigger than the other 2, so 50,991 square feet. And you can see the relationship of the old footprints shown in orange and the new footprint in blue. Conceptual first floor plan here is we have an entry, secure vestibule, admin space, and straight through into a library, which I think would be quite nice overlooking the trees. These big green boxes are different here because we're just having a separate gym from our student dining room as our student count in this building goes up. However, since we're at the ground floor, these spaces are actually below. So you could look down into the lower level and see them. We have 3 kindergartens, restrooms, and small group, 3 first grades, so essentially a primary wing. And on this side, we have grade 2 and some small group, our MH, and our large group restrooms. We have an elevator and 3 stairs, stair in the center, stair on the right, and a stair on the left. Then again, we walk in at grade and we go down, and when we're down, we have the student dining room and the gym. So students could have lunch, hit the large group restrooms, and come straight out at grade to the playground. On the right side could be 3 third grade rooms with some small group. Due to the size of the building, we're proposing a flex classroom. Art and music, both again, even though they're on the lower level, would have views out to the outside, centrally located. 3 fourth grade rooms and some additional special ed space. And down here, service is carved in below on that lower level through mechanical into a kitchen serving the student dining room. So I know I hit you with a lot. If you have questions, specific ones, we can talk afterwards and pull up the plans and talk. So how on earth are we going to do this? Hard part, right? How are we going to build schools where you have schools, and what are we going to do with the students? First, I want to take us back to the middle school project, which I was involved with. To do the middle school project, we built a temporary middle school at the school, and it was right on your baseball field. The baseball field was not in great condition at the time. The thought was, let's put our temporary school there, and then when we're finished, we'll rebuild and reconstruct baseball and get it back kind of better than before. These projects can be stressful for parents, and I think this community now has lived through this and seen that it is possible to have a temporary school experience, and more times than not, the kids are just fine in their space. In fact, they are more classroom-like than not. Air conditioning and some of the features that may be missing today. So this is an example of what a modular school looks like, what a classroom could look like, and we're proposing actual buildings with classrooms and hallways. So with that in mind, where on earth do we find 3 temporary school locations? And this is something we wrestled with for many months. I won't take you through the exhaustive discourse of how we landed where we landed, but I just want to give you an overview that there are many sites around the community we looked at. The city of Wyoming is a terrific partner and allowing us to make some very uncomfortable questions and queries of them. We looked at Grove Park, we looked at Crescent Park, we looked at the Civic Center, took a deep look at St. James, and then Hilltop Park. And just a quick example, like intuitively one would say, well, Hilltop's easy, right? Just build a new school at Hilltop Park, and then tear down the old school and flip the park and build a new park in the old school. What's that simple, right? And that's kind of like, oh, yeah. And then you get into these things, right, and certain details emerge. So Hilltop Park is also home to a 190-foot tall water tower, and that water tower has a 190-foot fall radius. And when you do the little geometry and draw a 190-foot fall radius around that tower, Hilltop Park is gone. So that's just a little short story about an example of some of the roadblocks we went into. So where we landed on this very pragmatically were the 2 sites that the school controls. So the high school and the middle school. And our proposal is a 2-phase construction process. In phase 1, we would build a temporary hilltop at the high school. And then in phase 2, we would build a temporary Vermont at the high school and a temporary elm at the middle school. In those sites specifically, on the left is the high school. We're proposing the softball field. So similar to baseball, is a field that could need some improvements. And our proposal is to use the softball field to house temporary hilltop phase 1, temporary Vermont phase 2. And then on the right is the middle school. We're proposing to use its rear yard as a temporary elm in phase 2. So the question is, where does softball go? And I can announce new information tonight that the gracious folks at Woodlawn Recreation Center have committed to allowing softball to live there. And that's these fields here. So the plan would be that softball improvements are made, they're housed there for the duration of the project, and then the softball field would be reconstructed better than ever at the end of the job. So conceptually, looking at the high school for the 2-phase Hilltop and Vermont plan, we could bring in 2 10-story modular buildings and 7 at the softball field with access off the berms. So again, in that first phase, that's where Hilltop would be. And in the second phase, that's where Vermont would be. And then at the middle school, we could set a classroom building on the portion of the back parking lot, the middle school, and another 8-classroom building here in the green space. We can't push them together because we have underground stormwater detention. So they need to stay apart. That also leaves the playground. Students here could go into the middle school for gymnasium and student dining room. Some quick visuals, how they can fit. So this is Hilltop. On the left is the current Hilltop footprint. And on the right are 2 10-classroom buildings. And so this is what they have today, and just in the same scale, this is what they could have in their first phase temporary school. So the fourth grade, third grade, second grade, first grade, kindergarten, all quantities of room sizes, special ed, intervention, library, music, art, clinic, and some office spaces at each. So that's how Hilltop could fit in the first phase, and then when Hilltop moves out and Vermont moves in, this is how Vermont might look in their student space plan. So this is the Vermont floor plan, same scale as two modular buildings, a pair of fourth grade, third, 2-1K, intervention, music, library, art, special ed, clinic, and office. You'll see some empty blue space there. Vermont is smaller than Hilltop, so by the time Vermont gets to it, there will be a little extra space in the modular buildings. Over at Elm, this is the Elm footprint on the left, and on the right shows how Elm could fit into two 8-classroom buildings. There are 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, all the support space, art, music, and kindergarten, and office and clinic. Schedule. If the bond issue passes in November, design would start in early 2025 and go approximately a year for Hilltop. Hilltop would be the focus. Hilltop would work through design, and we would release an early temporary classroom package at the high school. That's under construction and it's installed for the Hilltop students to move in to their first phase temporary location at the high school over that December-January break, 25-26. Then Hilltop is in their temporary school, and then we're abating and demolishing the current Hilltop and building the new Hilltop in 18 months. That project wraps up summer of 27. The new Hilltop is done. Hilltop moves out of the temporary into the new school, and then Vermont moves into temporary school next. So same location, different phase. The design of those two schools followed Hilltop, and the construction then of Elm and Vermont is an 18-month cycle, starting summer of 27, wrapping up December of 2028. The two new buildings finish. Elm moves it out from temporary to the new. Vermont moves out from temporary to the new, and the modular buildings are demolished. The site work will be cleaned up and softball field built in early 29. Budget. So the budget we've established for the 3 projects, you can see they're listed by school, square footage, and the total square footage. $535 a square foot is our budget. So for each of the 3 schools, $64.9 million for the schools. That's all in the project budget. Hard costs, soft costs, contingencies, furniture, playground, soup to nuts. Additionally, we need to abate and demolish Elm, Vermont, and Hilltop. So we have 74,000 square feet in at an average of $15 a square foot. So about 1.1 million in abatements and demos. And then we have a $6.5 million swing space budget that is to build 3 temporary school sites for the project. So all in, the new schools, the abatement demo, and the swing space, we're at $72,499,000, or $72.5 million. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Johnson, and I serve as the district treasurer. And how in the world does the school district come up with $72.5 million? Well, as of today, standing here, we haven't had someone come forward with a donor. So, like all public schools across Ohio, we have to have a bond issue. And a bond issue is a very specific, specific type of property tax levy. And in our case, for a specific dollar amount, and the district would sell bonds and issue debt, and then we would receive revenue and pay it back over the life of the project. This is very similar to what you might use in your home life, very similar to your mortgage. And so taxes are then assessed annually using something that we call the school finance world, and those are mills. And a mill is very simply represented mathematically as 0.001 or 1/10 or $1 per $1,000 of assessed value. We'll get to really what that means in terms of payment here in a second, but mills are then multiplied times your assessed valuation, and your assessed valuation isn't the market value of your home or the appraised value or what you're going to sell your home for. Assessed value is 35% of the market value, and so if you have a $100,000 market value, 35% of that is $35,000 assessed valuation, and then the millage is multiplied times that assessed valuation. So we actually have two of these active, two previous bond issues. The first one is, or the last one, I guess, is, I'm gonna go backwards, is the 2012 middle school bond issue, $25 million from March of 2012, voted at 4.79 mils. We're currently collecting 2.64 mils. Why might those numbers be different? Why would it be voted at 4.79 but currently collected at 2.64? Well, we've refunded it. So similar to what you might do with your home mortgage, so when interest rates are lower and we can achieve savings, we refunded this debt. And when we refinance that debt, that means we're paying lower interest, which means you're paying lower taxes. And so as part of our financial stewardship pillar here in the district, as part of our strategic plan, that's one of the things that we continuously monitor to try to take advantage of. And we've done that on the middle school bond issue. That, again, was voted in 2012, was a 37-year bond issue, so right now we're slated to pay that off in 2049. And, again, similar to your home mortgage, when you get that 30-year mortgage, you think, gosh, am I ever going to pay this off? And sometimes it feels that way about debt, but the high school bond issue from 1998, we are about to pay off. In fact, we are making the final payment on that debt in December of 2024. And we're super excited about that. This was a $24 million bond issue from May of 1998, approved by 60% of the voters. And again, it was voted at 8.2 mils. So voted at 8.2, we're currently collecting 3.36 mils. That 3.36 mils, those are going to roll off at the end of calendar year 2024 when we make that final debt payment in December. So these are two that we have active. I'm super curious if there were any school finance historians here in the audience, and you might know what the bond issues were before that. Does anybody know? I'm going to be super impressed if somebody knows. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. Prior to 1998, the bond issue before that was, you have to go all the way back to 1969. And 1969 was a 2.96 mil bond issue that actually, we called the 98 issue, the Wyoming High School bond issue, but that actually expanded this building and built Pendry that we're standing in today. And the Pendry opened in the year 2000. But prior to that was a bond issue in 1969 that actually built the high school, okay? And then prior to that, you have to go all the way back to the 50s to the bond issues from the original time when the primaries were built. So, sometimes in small communities, you really have to step back through the history of school finance and remember that at any point in our time, we had a bond issue for these buildings. And so you can go back to 51 for the bond issue at Vermont, 54 for a bond issue to build Elm, and then 56 for a bond issue to build Hilltop. So I thought that was super interesting if you find yourself in school finance trivia in the next couple days. Okay, so those are the previous ones. These two are the ones that are active, and again, we are paying off the high school bond issue, making that last payment in December. So what does that mean in terms of the primary bond issue forthcoming? So again, $72.5 million bond issue is estimated to be 7.98 mils. But that isn't what you as taxpayers are going to pay because we have that middle school debt, that high school debt coming off. So the full amount, if we didn't have the high school bond issue rolling off, would be about $279. Again, this is per $100,000 market value. Would be about $279. But rolling off is about $118. So the net impact is $161.61 per $100,000 home. Okay? So that is a net cost of 4.62 mils. It's important to remember that because the actual language on the ballot has to read 7.98 because that is what we're asking for. That is the true project cost. The vote on election day has to ask for the full 7.98. But you have to remember that. Thank you. You have to remember that high school debt is rolling off. But it can't say that on the ballot because that's not what's being voted on. Okay, I really can't hit that enough just to make sure folks understand that as we reach that final debt payment and that comes off of the tax bill at the end of December. And with that, I think that we are moving to Tim. Thank you. Well, I'll be up here with the group afterwards if you want to chat about what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thank you, Mike. And again, thank you to all of you here tonight, and for those folks that have come on different occasions. We talk about partnership in Wyoming all the time, and how the partnership between our community and our schools and our city is what makes Wyoming so special. And this process that we've been engaged in over the last 3 years is a perfect example of what that partnership looks like, resulting in a plan that addresses so many needs of our students and our facilities. So what we'd like to do right now, as we've done in the past, we know you might have questions about all this information. Lots and lots of information has been shared tonight for sure. And so we will invite our primary facilities steering committee members to come down. They'll come down to the front of the room. You'll see them because they have name tags on, their name badges. And so I encourage you to find someone from our committee, ask them questions, share information that you'd like to share with that team. We like to pull that information together and use that as we continue to provide information to the